Have you ever stopped to think why so many people shiver just by looking at a spider or a snake? Even when these animals are behind glass, completely harmless, some people feel chills, their breathing speeds up, and they want to run away. Curious, isn't it? After all, most people have never been bitten by a venomous spider or attacked by a snake in real life. So where does this almost automatic fear come from? Is it the result of traumatic experiences learned in childhood? Or could it be something much older, inscribed in our biology, and inherited from our ancestors? To begin understanding this question, we need to go back thousands, perhaps millions of years in time, when the first hominids were still exploring the African savannas. Imagine a scenario where survival depended not only on hunting, gathering fruits, or protecting oneself from large predators, but also on avoiding small, lethal dangers, venomous animals, discreet and difficult to detect. A snake bite or a spider bite could mean infection, fever, or even death. In this context, developing a quick instinct of aversion to these animals was literally a matter of life or death. But before we dive into this evolutionary explanation, let's reflect. If this fear were only the result of personal trauma, why do even babies show alert reactions when seeing images of spiders and snakes? Even without ever having had contact with them? Psychological experiments have already shown that when faced with these specific shapes, the human brain responds differently, activating areas linked to fear and attention. This indicates that we are not simply dealing with cultural learning. The fear of spiders and snakes seems to be embedded in our biological programming. And this leads us to a fascinating point. The human brain is not only a processor of present information, but also a repository of experiences accumulated over generations. Each of our instincts is like a scar inherited from the past, memories engraved in flesh and behavior. The fear of venomous animals is one of these invisible traces shaped by centuries of fatal encounters. Now, to better understand this phenomenon, let's explore how science explains the evolution of this fear, and how real and fictional stories help us see that perhaps this emotion, as uncomfortable as it may be, still has much to teach us. When we talk about evolution, we must remember, it's not always the strongest who survive. Often, it's the one who reacts the fastest to danger, even if that danger is small. A snake camouflaged in the grass, silent, waiting for the right moment to strike. A spider hidden inside a cave or under rocks. For our ancestors, noticing these animals before physical contact was essential. Those with brains more attentive to patterns resembling these creatures had greater chances of survival. And this shortcut in attention was gradually selected over time. A classic psychology experiment shows how this process still operates in us today. When volunteers are shown screens with several images, flowers, butterflies, mushrooms, cars mixed with spiders or snakes, the human gaze is almost immediately drawn to those dangerous animals. Our brain locks for a few milliseconds longer when facing them, as if it were an internal radar. Interestingly, this does not happen in the same way with modern weapons like knives or guns, even though they are equally dangerous. The brain seems more prepared to react to threats that existed for millions of years than to those that appeared only in recent centuries. This helps us understand that this fear is not only the result of culture, but a biological remnant. However, culture also plays its role. In some societies, snakes are revered as sacred symbols. In others, spiders are associated with creativity and weaving. These cultural layers shape the way we express fear, but do not eliminate the biological root. It's as if we had a pre-installed aversion software, but the way we use this software varies according to our social environment. To make this even clearer, think about horror movies. How often are monstrous creatures portrayed with traits of spiders or snakes? Thin legs, multiple eyes, sharp fangs. These images stir our unconscious because they resonate with those ancestral instincts. Directors know this and use these symbols to generate immediate fear. It doesn't matter if we're in a safe movie theater. Our body reacts as if we were in the jungle. This mixture of instinct and culture creates a powerful sensation, a deep, almost irrational fear, yet also shaped by stories, beliefs, and experiences. And science shows that this emotion is not useless. It prepares us to react. Accelerated heartbeat, tense muscles, heightened attention. All of this is a survival legacy. Now that we understand how instinct was shaped by evolution and reinforced by culture, let's move on to the most interesting part: how this fear manifests in daily life. What are the most curious stories connected to it? And, most importantly, what we can do with this knowledge to live better today. Imagine a person walking along a trail in the countryside. Suddenly, something moves quickly among the dry leaves. Before even identifying whether it was just a branch, the body has already reacted. The heart raced, muscles tensed, eyes widened. This automatic mechanism, known as the fight-or-flight response, is triggered by the limbic system, especially the amygdala. The amygdala works like an internal alarm. It doesn't wait for you to think. It fires immediately. Only afterward does the prefrontal cortex step in to assess whether the danger was real or not. And then, many times, we realize that the enemy was just a shadow. This speed was crucial for the survival of our ancestors. A delay of a few seconds could cost a life. That's why evolution favored brains capable of overreacting, even at the risk of false alarms. After all, it was better to be startled for nothing 10 times than to be wrong once and get bitten. But here comes a practical question for modern life. How do we deal with this fear in a world where most people rarely encounter venomous snakes or spiders? The result is that many individuals develop intense phobias, called arachnophobia or ophidiophobia, which interfere with quality of life. Avoiding places, constant anxiety, even nightmares. What was once a survival instinct can become an unnecessary burden in everyday life. Modern psychology approaches this dilemma in an interesting way. Exposure therapy, for example, helps people gradually face these fears. Interestingly, the best results happen when patients understand that their fear is not irrational, but rather an evolutionary inheritance. This changes the perspective. Instead of feeling ashamed of their panic, the person learns to recognize that their body is simply following a very old pattern. This knowledge helps them regain control. Another practical point is how entertainment can be used as a therapeutic tool. Some studies show that watching images of spiders or snakes in controlled contexts, such as movies or animations, can desensitize fear over time. In other words, the same resource cinema uses to scare can also serve to help reduce anxiety. However, it's not always just instinct. In many cases, traumatic childhood experiences further reinforce this biological programming. A child startled by a snake in the backyard may carry that memory for a lifetime. The difference is that without the biological predisposition, the trauma might not have been so impactful. The combination of instinct and real experience creates an even stronger phobia. And here lies the big question: is the fear of spiders and snakes instinct or trauma? Science suggests it's both. We have an undeniable biological foundation, but individual experiences shape the intensity of the response. In the next section, we'll summarize this knowledge and show how it can be applied in everyday life, not only to face fears, but also to better understand how our brain carries the marks of evolution. Understanding the fear of spiders and snakes is not just a scientific curiosity, it's also a window into how we function as a species. This fear reveals that our most intense emotions are, in part, inheritances from times when survival depended on quick and efficient reactions. It shows that our brain still carries within it a prehistoric survival manual. And what can we do with this knowledge today? First, use awareness to our advantage. Knowing that the fear of spiders or snakes is largely instinctive can bring relief to those who suffer from these phobias. You are not weak or irrational. You are human, carrying within you an ancient mechanism. The second practical application is learning how to train this instinct. Just as athletes train reflexes, we can train our minds to recognize when fear is exaggerated. Breathing techniques, mindfulness, and even small gradual exposures help balance instinct with reason. Another important lesson is that this fear connects us to nature. It reminds us that we are not purely rational machines, but organisms that evolved in a world full of risks and challenges. Our brains have been shaped by millions of years of coexistence with these dangers. This perspective can bring us humility in the face of our own biology. To conclude, let's tie the central idea together. The fear of spiders and snakes is not just the result of individual traumas. It's an instinct etched into our species, reinforced over thousands of generations, but also shaped by our personal experiences. It's a combination of nature and culture, instinct and memory. And now I invite you. What is your greatest fear? Do you think it comes from your personal history or from something older, something you inherited without even realizing it? Leave your opinion in the comments. Share this video with someone who always screams when they see a spider, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. After all, understanding how the brain works is one of the best ways to understand ourselves.